Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Behavior. I am Zoe. I am back with Hannah.
Hi, I'm here.
She's back. It's been this is our first time recording together, just the two of us, in I think almost a month.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Like we've had guests, which has been great. Love having all of our wonderful guests, people that have filled in. Thank you to Caroline last week once again. A lot of people really loved her on the pod. She's a great addition. Wonderful. She's a great guest. So thank you to Caroline. Next week you'll be on as well. So this is a chance for us to really...
I know, and it was unexpected. I think I forgot I was coming back on Saturday.
I know. We didn't know we'd be together.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I want to go over some stuff that happened last week that you didn't have a chance to talk about.
Yeah.
We couldn't talk about together. And then obviously some of the other news that's gone on. And we also need to draw. I believe we need to draw for Baku.
Yeah, we do.
You got Charles Leclerc for Monza.
I did.
So that's a big one.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes.
How exciting.
Yeah. So we're going to go through all of that and hopefully should be good episode.
Yeah.
Let's first start out with, so obviously Caroline and I talked about it on last week's episode, the papaya rules situation, the Lando Oscar dynamic, what is happening at McLaren, what should be happening at McLaren. I wanted to give you the floor to discuss your thoughts and feelings at this current time.
Interesting. I watched the race. I kept up on a little bit of it, but I'm potentially still in the dark about some of it.
Okay.
But I sent you and not that you hadn't seen it, but the Will Buxton kind of, and to me, he's sweet man. The British bias is there, even though he and that's okay.
It is okay.
I am the first person to say that bias is normal, and it's okay.
We say that all the time, and I think it's important, as we always say, to acknowledge one's bias.
So I do think that he made a misstep and should have said, "I recognize I have British bias,
and I want to see a British man or driver win the championship."
And I felt, at least at the time with what I knew, I agreed with what he was saying in a lot of ways.
Yes.
In that, what did they do to Lando? I just don't understand. If we're talking about who was saying, I feel like I saw in a clip that they're not allowed to have a
number one driver.
Yeah.
So that's a theory, which is that, McLaren haven't established a number one, number two driver. And there's a theory that in Oscar's contract, there's something in there that basically says that Oscar cannot be, there cannot be a 1 and 2 situation. And maybe that has to do with the fact that Mark Webber, who is his manager, was the number 2 driver to Sebastian Vettel and had to do some things throughout his career to benefit Sebastian that he maybe wasn't so happy to do.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that I all understand, but this is where the sport is so tricky for, I think for a lot of people, but it's hard to watch because, in a lot of ways, I felt like Oscar was driving better.
Yeah.
But also, when he gets down to it, are you trying to go for the championship or are you trying to please the driver who is not going to help you get into the champ? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just a weird, and maybe you can give me some more context on it because I was also, watching there was crying baby and there was a lot of stuff going on, but I just felt like, I thought Lando got kind of screwed over. He obviously seemed pretty pissy about it. Yeah. I think for me, as soon as it became clear that Oscar wasn't going to win the race, I think to me, we need to do something to benefit the team with points.
That's the hard thing. And this is what I said last week to Caroline, which is one, I feel like McLaren has found themselves, they are a bit surprised by the position they're in. I don't think they expected to really be competing for the Drivers' Championship this season. And I think the Red Bull downfall and how poorly they've done recently has surprised them.
Yeah.
And so I think they found themselves in this position where they're kind of oh, wait, now we actually have to start doing something, but we didn't plan for this necessarily. And it's also a case of Lando hasn't done himself many favors either, because he is screwed up in certain ways, and he has given up chances for wins and points and this, that, and the other. And it's hard to then say, okay, now wait, Oscar, get out of it. When Lando isn't doing everything he could possibly do to maximize his points and his potential.
Yeah.
I get it. Obviously, Oscar's perspective, like, you want to win every race. If there's no orders, if there's no plan in place, you're going to do what you have to do to win. Totally
Absolutely.
makes sense. I also understand, though, from a team perspective, everyone that's won a championship needs their second driver or their teammate to help them in some way. We saw, obviously, in 2021 when Max wins his first championship, Checo did basically held Lewis back for as much as he could to basically help Max catch up to him. Like, there's a good chance that Max wouldn't have won that race if not for Checo.
Yeah.
So everyone needs their teammate.
Yeah.
But it's just, and they're like, whatever they are, I think like 62 points behind right now. So it's close, but it's not 30 points.
Yeah.
It's a weird, they're in this like weird middle ground.
Yeah. And it's like they need to get on the same page in the boardroom.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, they all need to get aligned and figure out, like, hey, and I to your point, like, it is an unexpected situation for them, but they also need to think quicker than they're thinking.
They're sitting on the fence too.
Yeah, and I think it makes it confusing for the drivers, especially when they're mid-race.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to tell me that I have to give him a place back, why would I just do it on my own?
Right.
Like, I'm a competitor. I'm here to win stuff. I don't know. It's just a tough one, and I think that they need it, like, from the top down. They need to figure it out.
Yes.
And basically tell them how it's going to go.
Yes.
And not leave it for mid-race to kind of figure out the strategy for it.
Because imagine, I mean, we could be in a situation where Max ends up winning the championship by 5 points, 6 points. It could come down to, if only they had just done XYZ.
Yeah.
And of course, you can never look back in hindsight. It's obviously super easy to do that, but I also feel like we talked about this. I think we even said this back when Oscar was for his very first season. We said, for the first year, the dynamic's going to be fine because Oscar's a rookie and Lando's established. But at some point, it's going to get dicey, and it's hard. If you look at the championships over the years, especially recent years, like, basically Lewis's most dominant era, Max's most dominant era, very clear 1 and 2 driver.
Yeah.
And it doesn't maybe always benefit you in the Constructors' Championship, as we're seeing now, but you kind of need to establish that order because that's how you're going to maximize your chances to win a championship or the Drivers' Championship. When it was Lewis and Nico, obviously one of them won the championship, but like, at what cost?
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't good. That wasn't sustainable. And so at some point, they're not going to be able to sustain this much longer. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of years, I actually was thinking about this. I wondered if whoever feels like kind of the odd man out in that dynamic, I wonder if they're going to pull a Danny Rick Red Bull situation where they're just like, I'm no longer the favored man around here, or I'm not going to be the favored man. So therefore I need to find someplace else to go where I can actually be the front runner. Yeah. Maybe they'll learn from Daniel's mistakes and not do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, it's like risk reward. But it could just get a little bit difficult for the team to maintain.
Yeah, for sure. I also think what becomes difficult too is at some point, like, if Oscar's out driving Lando, that then, like, there's a very clear path to say, hey guys, he can't be number one driver because I'm out driving him.
Yes.
This doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So it's kind of one of those, like, in my mind right now, just based on where the points are, and as much as I hate the seniority thing sometimes, like the Lando seniority within the team, it's like, it's got to be Lando right now.
Well, he's ahead.
Right. Just from like a points perspective, but that doesn't necessarily stop Oscar from having to like prove that he's worth it. It's just like, okay, Oscar can't win the Drivers' Championship.
Right.
That's not mathematically possible at this stage.
Right.
So if that's what the goal is, like, to have McLaren have a driver who wins the championship, it will not be Oscar.
Yeah.
So if that's what McLaren wants, then McLaren has to say, hey, Lando's our number one driver for this season.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And it's a math problem.
Yes.
And you cannot solve it right now.
And everything can be reevaluated and changed next season. But for right now, for the remaining 8 races, we have to do everything we can. Even it may not work, right?
Yeah,
it may not work. Red Bull may figure something out. Max may end up winning a couple races or whatever. And it doesn't end up happening. But I sort of feel like it's a situation where they should at least try.
Yeah.
They should at least try. Now, I do think it does end up, here's where I have an issue, because Lando has been out qualifying Oscar, right? For the most part. The struggle is like, if Oscar gets pole and Lando gets 4th, at that point, I'm kind of like, what's Oscar supposed to just give up pole position?
No, yeah, and that's
you know
my
what
thing.
I'm saying?
It's like to me, this is where it's like, okay, Lando, get to the front. And then if you're
Show
1 and 2 at that point, and you've made it up, then it's like maybe you do have to sacrifice it. But if you're not, if you keep starting the way you've been starting and you lose places and you go from P4 to P8, no, you can't switch places with Oscar. That's first of all, good, best of luck. But it's just not gonna.
It's also very challenging to ask a driver to give up a win. It's much easier to ask them to give up a podium, like second or third. Okay. At the end of the day,
you're still up
there. Does it really matter? I mean, it does. And for some drivers, it really does. But Oscar's he's going to have many podiums, many wins in his career that I don't know that it's going to really matter. It's just,
and it's honestly, it's about the communication piece. Yeah. It's like even say that if at some point, even if like with this race, if there was an understanding that if Oscar, let's say they had a magic, what's it called, the ball,
8 ball,
whatever, but just like they had the foresight to know, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. If Lando's going to be back here, but it's going to be Ferrari, McLaren. If Oscar's not going to be able to pull out the win, we're going to ask you to switch with Lando because we want to get
maximum points
for him, because he's the only one on this team who can achieve the championship, possibly.
Right.
And they didn't do that. And so why on earth would he
give it up? Of course not.
No, and neither would Lando.
Neither should. I mean,
neither
no one
should they, because
no one
that
should.
was never something that was established. Well, at least from the information that we have, like that wasn't established before the race.
I mean, even think about, this is maybe a random example, but think about back, what was it, Brazil 2022, when Max wouldn't give up his position for Checo, and that was not even that was for like 4th or 5th place. Yeah, Max refused to do it. Now there was probably other, like, Max should have given that place up for Checo. Like, that was kind of insanity, but he had his reasons or whatever. He chose not to do it. But that just is an example of how difficult it is to ask drivers to give up a place for somebody else. It is a tough ask, and many of them, it doesn't matter where they are on the grid, like, they don't want to do it. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes out.
I agree.
And I just think, it's easy to have a 1 or 2 number 1 drivers when you're maybe like the 3rd fastest car or something. That's fine, but it's just so challenging when you have the best car. And I know some people feel like Ferrari is 2 number 1 drivers, but personally, in my own personal opinion, like, I don't think that that's true. I think obviously Carlos is a great driver, but I think it's pretty clear that Charles is the number 1 driver
at this stage. It's like he's the one staying,
right?
What I mean,
right? And like the question too of Merc, like Lewis George, that's another sort of like interesting one. But George is staying, Lewis is not. So it kind of like answers those questions for them. Not that they're in a fight. I mean, I guess they kind of are they're not fighting for the drivers' championship. Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out this week in Baku, and just how that all ends up playing out. And
I did get a chuckle when Oscar said Lance was driving like he was go-karting for the first time.
Leave it to Oscar to just always come up with. I mean, he definitely has something potentially against Lance, because do you remember when the Lance and Daniel thing happened, and Oscar was like, but no one else ran into each other. Like, I think he maybe has
a chip with pay drivers.
Or with
Lance specifically.
Because I think I don't know inside his head, but that was funny.
Also, his sister Hattie is so cool. I just found her on TikTok recently. Yeah, she's like so good at singing.
Yeah, she was. I don't know if you saw the story that her mom told about her leaving when they were at the Singapore GP last year. She left to go to a K-pop concert, and then she came on and she was like, let me actually explain, like my mom aired me out on this podcast and I have to like explain. I didn't like miss the race to go to a K-pop concert. It was like a Friday, and I was see you later.
I would have also
see you later. Yeah, his whole family, like
they're so
all
cool.
of his sisters, they're very cool. Maybe we'll see them back in Singapore because that's like the closest one for a lot of the Oceania, Asia folk to get there. Anyway, okay, let's get to some other pieces of news. So this week we should be expecting a announcement that Adrian Newey will be joining Aston Martin on a 5-year deal, £30 million a year, which is deserved,
totally,
100%, but crazy.
I just don't even know what that kind of money looks like.
I know. And I was talking about this with my dad because I was like, this is F1 is so much a sport that is equally even maybe not equally, more so important that the design in the car is better than the driver. So you almost want to spend more on that than you would on your driver. But it's crazy that he is making more money than a lot of the drivers on the grid.
I know.
Again, makes sense because he's the best to make.
How does that affect them cost cap stuff?
Well, I don't think it actually, I don't know. I know that the driver salary does not fall into the cost cap, which is why Ferrari can spend $100 million on Lewis. But I don't actually know for those types of people if it actually, how that actually shakes itself out. I'm not sure. I mean, if this ends up leading to Lance Stroll as world champion, I'm not going to be. It's what I'm not going to be happy around here. I mean, it would be crazy. Like it would be fun in a sense to watch that.
No,
I say skeptically,
because I guess look, this whole thing is money, right?
Yes.
But you've essentially paid for your child to win something that they're not capable of achieving without your money.
Without the greatest of all time designing your car.
And like,
now, to be fair, Lance will have a teammate. You know what I mean? He has to have a teammate.
Yeah.
So like
put Fernando on the podium as the championship winner. But like, what? I don't know. It's just,
I'm just saying
it's giving me overwhelmed.
Is going to have to beat his teammate in order to become world driver champion. You know, unless he does big mind
green orders or whatever.
And he, what'd you say?
Well, I don't know what we call them.
No, Lawrence decides to hire, Logan Sargent back on the grid to be Lance's teammate. So then Lance can be.
I guess contracts are just pretend around here, but isn't Fernando signed until like the end of time?
I think 2026.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that.
Yeah. Now,
do you think he re-signed just so we could get that road car?
I don't know. Maybe. If Yuki goes to Aston Martin because of Honda, that would be awesome.
I don't want Yuki to go to Aston Martin because
but he could
Honda.
Be world driver champion.
I understand. I don't think he wants it to win it that way. I don't think that's a healthy environment for him.
I don't know. I want to see it. I would love to see Yuki beat Lance to become world driver champion. That would be awesome.
Yeah. But if it's not a guarantee, then like I don't want him. I just don't know that like he and Lance will get on.
No, they won't.
No,
they won't.
And Yuki's just so good at like, he's such a content guy. I guess, same could be said for Fernando.
Yeah, exactly.
He's making it
carry him on the back. But it is, obviously there were the rumors early on in the season about him going to Ferrari, and like,
I'm a little bummed about that.
Yeah, like that suck.
But they spent too much money on Lewis. So
yeah,
$30 million a year is
it's a lot.
Insane amount.
It's a lot of money. But this is Lawrence Stroll's big master plan. I mean, this is genuinely his plan.
Yeah, I know.
Has been to
do that.
L plan is exactly. Trust the process. And
what an insane world we're living in.
I know. So it's just going to be fast. And this is going to be interesting because it really will come down to, again, and this is also interesting, like, because Adrian's coming to the team, not officially confirmed, but that's what it sounds like.
I mean, when the BBC's saying it.
Yeah. But so if the car actually ends up being very strong, like his first year working on the car. You know, you might have a lot of drivers. You might have a Max Verstappen. You might have other drivers being like, hey, I want to get over to Aston Martin, you know?
Sure.
Does Lawrence sacrifice?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I really don't think that
Max
he will take his son off the team. This is the whole reason that he finally...
Okay, but if Max wants to be on the team, would he have a Max Lance driver lineup?
Maybe.
Like,
does Max want to be on the team?
That's my question, though, which is like, will Lawrence want to have the best drivers in order to get the best chance? Because there's a risk with that, and this is what I was going to say, which is like, you might have the second best designer, I don't know who that would be, somewhere else, designing the car for a Charles Leclerc or a Lando Norris, versus Adrian Newey designing a car for Lance Stroll, who ends up being better. And will it be enough for Aston Martin to beat the Landos, the Charles, the Oscars, whoever? And if not, does Lawrence say, we need to get a top tier driver on our team that will probably beat Lance, but at least I can say I have a world champion?
But I think he wants Lance to be the world champion.
Of course he does.
Well, no, I know, but like when people, my personal opinion, when people have money like this and they can achieve the goals that they want to achieve with money. Yeah. There's no secondary option. Okay. Like, but I'm happy to be wrong.
We could see. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, why doesn't he just keep Fernando and let Fernando win the championship? I think that's the most telling of all. If the car becomes good enough to be a world champion car, and Fernando's still in the seat, and they're letting Fernando be number one driver, and it's, you know, Lance's, well, right, I understand, but like that's how it works, and you know, like Lance is the Checo and Fernando's the Max of, you know, that Red Bull domination era, and Lawrence seems to be comfortable with that dynamic because he really does just want to have a world champion on his team. Then I think he'll do whatever he wants, but I think that we have to wait and see, and I'll be really curious. And honestly, like every single day I'm curious about whether or not Lance actually still wants to be doing this, or if he ever wanted to be doing it. But
we'll have to see. I mean,
it's crazy.
There's very few people on the F1 grid, like there's nobody honestly on the F1 grid besides Lance, who I'm like, I feel like I know every other driver on the grid. I feel like I have a sense of like their personality or their story, or like who they are as a human being. I feel like I understand them to some degree. I just don't feel like I know Lance at all.
No, all of my opinions of Lance are like projected assumptions based on boys with daddy issues.
Yeah, and sort of what we've seen of him on Drive to Survive and in other ways, and like his attitude towards, you know,
everything,
him making mistakes and how he handles certain situations, which, you know, whatever.
It's always someone else's fault.
Right. But it's just, so that's, I think, part of it too. It's just like, I feel like I know everyone else's something about them, at least to some degree, and I just don't feel like I know Lance at all. And so if he were to win a World Driver Championship, I just would feel, this is going to sound weird, but like, not empty. I'd be happy for him, obviously. I don't feel like I have any connection to him.
Yeah, totally.
I have
it wouldn't
no
mean
connection
anything to me. It would just be like, wow, they did it.
Yeah.
And then let's not ever do this again.
Right. I don't know. It's just interesting because I was like going through all the other drivers, and it's like I feel like I can find connection with all of them except for him. I just don't.
Do you think he'd retire immediately?
That's a good question.
Because if that's like the whole like goal, that's all his dad wants.
Yeah.
You can't win it and then like expect it to
happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But, you know, Adrian Newey, like, obviously probably nice for him to stay in England. Like, doesn't have to move to Italy, which is probably an incentive for him. Obviously making a lot of money. Probably gets to, we don't know, or I didn't look deep enough to find, like, the nitty, like, I'm not sure if he's getting to do other stuff with Aston Martin in terms of, like, I'm sure he is. Which I'm sure is cool. You know, maybe he grew up like a James Bond fan, and, you know, James Bond, their cars, you know, Aston Martin, like, that's cool.
I'm just like, $30 million a year.
Pounds.
Whatever.
which I think is actually
more than 30 million.
No, it's less. I think.
It is?
No, it is more, but it's not that much more.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. So congrats to all involved, to Aston Martin, to Lawrence, to Lance, to Fernando.
Yeah.
And we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out for them there.
Yeah.
Okay, the other piece of news, or one other thing that I just wanted to touch on very quickly, was there were reports that McLaren and Ferrari reportedly tried to sign GP, Max's race engineer, but he said no, and he re-signed his deal with Red Bull.
Now, when they say tried to get, like, they just like sent him an email and asked if he was interested in pursuing other opportunities, or like he had offers.
I think he had offers. And he said, no, I'll stick around with my guy Max. So, we've talked a lot about like the inner turmoil at Red Bull, and obviously, I mean, Adrian Newey leaving, Jonathan Wheatley leaving. Like, there's a lot of
turnover,
and like, this is the thing, like, Adrian Newey left and he signed, like, he didn't just leave to retire and go live his life on a beach. Like, he chose a different team, a different organization, and will other people start to choose other organizations?
It's crazy.
For now, GP's like, I'm going to stick with my annoying son Max, who yells at me on the radio.
And honestly, Max should be so grateful.
He should be so grateful.
I just don't know who could step in and manage him the way that GP manages him.
He does such a good job.
And I hope he gets a good bonus every year.
And probably does if he wins the driver's champion.
Outside of that, like, he deserves just like a thank you
bonus. Yeah, I wonder what Max's like Christmas gift, what he does for him. Probably something
chocolates. Box of chocolates. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh. And then Ollie Bierman, he is going to be officially racing in place of Kevin Magnussen this weekend in Baku. How do you feel about KMag missing out?
I love it.
It's funny.
It's the first race ban I think we've had since, or at least I've been a fan.
I think ever.
And I just think it's a really, I'm sure he does not view it this way, but as a spectator, I just think it's like the perfect race ban to have, because he's just been such a chaos agent this whole season, and it's just like a fun way to go out. It's his last season in F1, most likely, forever. And get yourself a race ban.
Yeah, it is funny.
Because I thought Pierre would have gotten one, and then he didn't, obviously.
He didn't, yeah. Well, and I don't think they wanted to give him a race ban. I just think they had no other option.
Yeah, right.
They had to do it.
Do you think it was like a goal of his to like get a race ban before he left F1?
Probably not.
No.
I did see, though, I talked about it last week, but Pierre apparently tried to like convince the stewards to not, because KMag got the penalty points because of his penalty that he got hitting Pierre during the race, and that's what then pushed him over the edge.
And Pierre was like,
Pierre was trying to like basically convince the stewards, like, don't give him a race ban for that. I think all the drivers ultimately, like, they don't want a driver to be banned.
Well, I'm sure there are some accidents that some of them would have been like,
that's true.
They should be banned.
That's very true.
So that's nice of Pierre.
Yeah, but it didn't work. I mean, obviously the stewards aren't like, oh, he said, please don't.
No, of course, but I think,
he did what he could. Yeah. But yeah, so Ollie Bierman, so his second race this season, obviously raced with Ferrari in place of Carlos. It's, the Haas has been decent this season, but it's not going to be like driving the Ferrari. We said last week we're kind of surprised that that if you get a ban, you're allowed to be replaced. I was just thinking
about that.
It should be like you cannot fill that seat.
But I guess it's a driver penalty. So in a lot of ways, it's like, well, you can't get points, but the team should still be allowed to get points, because Ollie's individual driver points won't matter.
Right. Anyway, so looking forward to seeing Ollie. Oh, and we didn't really talk about, because you weren't here, Kimi Antonelli.
I was just wondering, I was like, did we talk about that, or did that happen while I was gone? What a weekend to be announced.
I know.
Poor kid.
I know. But you know what? He's
a sweetie.
He doesn't play it safe. He was going for it. And I think a lot of other drivers had issues too. And he's going to be fine. Like,
of course.
He's going to be fine.
It's just like, I can imagine that he's like, just shit. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
But
it's all good.
We're all excited for him.
It's all good. He's going to be great. It is crazy. Like, the amount of, I was thinking about this too last week, how not only was last season sort of underwhelming from like the race perspective and who won races, because Max won
everything,
19 of 22 or whatever it was. But there was also like, aside from the Nick DeVries being replaced and then the hand braking and Liam coming in, like that whole situation, that we had no changes on the grid. Everyone stayed.
Yeah.
And so now this season, it's like, not only are we having multiple people winning races, battles for both championships, like that's been like super interesting, but then we've also had all this like change happening with the drivers themselves. Lewis to Ferrari, Carlos to Williams, and then all these new young drivers coming in. It's like, oh wow, this is
shaking up Chicago.
We're really shaking it up, and it's just a little exciting. Okay, let's get to some of the questions, and then we'll get to the draft and all that good stuff. Are you going to COTA? We are not.
No. Come on, guys.
We have a wedding.
Told you this.
I know. We keep saying we have a wedding that we're going to. So no COTA this year.
I still have to get an outfit for that wedding.
But it will, I'm sure, be. I mean, we love COTA so much. So if you have a chance to go, you should definitely go. It's a great time, and next year we'll hopefully make the journey happen. Though I am all in. I am like 100% all in. We have to make Australia happen.
I know.
We have to. Like, amazing. Okay. How do you feel about Kimmy being born in 2006?
I can't even talk about that. I didn't know that until right now, and that's just something that's insane. Like, honestly, the idea of anyone, like, we were born in the 1900s, and I think the idea of anyone being like, I know, obviously, like, my cousin just had a baby, and like she was born in 2024, and like I just don't even know what to do with that.
I know.
What the hell?
I know.
That doesn't
2006.
make any sense.
Yeah, it is
crazy. 2006 is just wild.
Like it makes me think of, there was a video, I think maybe it was last season, when Daniel and Yuki became teammates, and they're like on a golf cart or something being transported somewhere, and I think maybe Daniel asked Yuki when he was born.
Yeah.
And Yuki said 2000, and Daniel was like, what?
Because he's 89, right, Daniel?
Yeah, and then he told him he was born in
the
Yuki
80s.
Was like, old man.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he actually said that, but like, it is like, whoa, like 2000.
Well, and like
that's
Lewis
crazy.
is born when?
Well, what is he? Almost 40?
38,
so
maybe
1984.
Yeah, so, and his replacement was born in 2006. Like, that's weird.
When he's Fernando not born?
Replacing him because he sucks. Obviously, he's being replaced because he decided to leave. But
yeah, wait, when's Fernando born? I think he just turned 40. I think he just turned 43. 1981.
Almost the 70s.
So Fernando Alonso, 1981, is on the same driver grid as Kimi Antonelli, 2006.
That's wild.
I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
It also, I feel like too, this season particularly, like I have felt old, like in terms of the fans and stuff. I have noticed in terms of like, well, for one, I feel like the Gen Z population is like not as big of a fan of Daniel because he's like this old millennial man.
Which is like perfect for us.
Right. But I'm just like, oh yeah, like if I was, 20 years old, like I probably still would love him. But like, I think I would obviously not be
Lando would have been the clear winner.
Connecting with the millennial.
Yeah.
Who like, so I very much feel my age right now in relation to like the drivers and then other fans as well. Right. It's just funny.
2006.
I know. DTS season 7 is going to be absolutely buck wild after all the drama this season. Thoughts?
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, we know now, obviously, like having started our journey with this sport through the lens of Drive to Survive, and then now having like watched F1 or watched the seasons and then watch Drive to Survive, we know that so much doesn't get shared on Drive to Survive. Like there's a lot of stuff that just gets left off. So we think it's going to be crazy, but like how much will they actually cover?
Yeah, but I think for me, what I really love is it's like the I like the driver commentary on it all, or like the principal I think that's where it's more like the dramatics, it's like the reality show, like hearing from the key players. And I always think that's not that we haven't heard from them, but I feel like we get a little bit more like kind of in real time, because they are recording interviews during
the season
in real time instead of on a reality show they come back and they like watch clips and then they say something about it. It's like, no, we're recording you on the weekend, all this is happening, right? A little fresher takes.
Well, and also too, Drive to Survive, it's a TV show and they have their favored characters, right? So it's like the show is they like lean into those people. So Daniel, I'm sure, will be featured maybe more, well, he's a part of, I guess, a lot of the chaos in some degree, but like, he's a favored person to follow. I think Lando is a favorite person to follow. There's some other people who the show clearly tends to like prefer, and there's drivers who seem to never get any content about them whatsoever. I really hope Gunter comes back as one of the like sort of talking head in the seat, like sort of offering his commentary. Because him and Claire Williams.
I really liked him.
We do not need she who shall not be named. You know who I'm talking about?
I'm trying to get there. Right. Well, she's not involved anymore, is she?
I don't know. She was in the show last season.
But
it's a different...
Still doing commentary?
I don't know about, but it's a different production crew. I mean, she could still do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I understand, but I think that's why they brought her in at the beginning. Maybe because she was involved peripherally with the sport. And
no, out.
But what was I just gonna say? Oh, I'm also curious to see if they cover the Christian Horner stuff.
I'm gonna say no,
which is a missed opportunity. But
I'm gonna say no.
I won't be surprised if they don't, but I think that they should.
Yeah. Have any of your F1 opinions or favorites changed from when you started as fans to now? If so, how?
Every day.
Well, yeah, for Hannah. I would say like the two drivers that I feel like I started out not really liking that much or not really being fans of, to now I find myself being fans of theirs, at least to some degree, is George and Fernando.
Agreed.
George I found really irritating when I first started to watch. I just found him to be a bit of a tryhard.
Yeah, a little ick.
A little bit I just struggle to connect with him. And I wouldn't say that when it's a race weekend, I particularly feel invested in his performance. I don't really care how he finishes. I'm happy for him, obviously, if he wins a race and stuff. That's fun, but I'm not like, he's not one of the guys that I'm like rooting for to get the podium or get the win.
Yeah.
But I love him. Like, I love him off the track. He's so funny. He's such a great character. Like,
his turtleneck. Did we discuss that?
No.
Wow.
That was something.
That was a specific choice he made.
That was something.
Yeah. Continue.
And then Fernando, kind of similar to I found him kind of just a crotchety old man.
Brash initially. And just, like, rude as hell.
Yeah. And now I'm just like, love it.
And I think what it is at the time... Like, I think the reason they've grown, like, for me, because I would say it's the same, but they've grown on me because it's unapologetically who they are. Yes. And so when you lean into, like, in a way, I think Fernando specifically, like, it's his bit. It's his character. He is this, just don't give a damn aggressive kind of whatever. And then George is just literally, that's just who he is. And it's kind of like, oh,
yes,
George.
Yes. If you think about like the drivers that I love the most, and I will say like, so my top 5 drivers right now, and this is like not in any particular order, are, I would say, Charles, Daniel, Lewis, Yuki, and Oscar. And I would say 4 of those 5 have been my 4 favorites since I started watching the show. Obviously, Oscar wasn't involved, but those 4 I've always, since day one, I've been a fan of, and it's because I find for them like they are who they are, and I always enjoyed that. And obviously, Oscar has come. I've learned to love him in recent months, years. I would say the one driver that maybe I've gone like the opposite, like I've did really like, and now I'm just kind of like, is Carlos. And again, like, I don't hate him. It's just, I think if you'd asked me, and I don't really remember my, like, I'm not sure how I felt about Carlos when I watched Drive to Survive. I'm sure I liked him a lot, but I think I probably would have had him in my top 5.
Yeah.
And he is no longer there.
That's okay.
So, do you have anyone that you were like positive? Now you're
I think because I get so invested in like the background story, like I think it's not really a huge secret that
Esteban.
We're a little I'm lukewarm, I think. But I think when I first started watching and like his, how he got into the sport and all the sacrifices his family made, it's obviously very touching and it's impressive to see where he's gotten, and that doesn't change. Like there is still a lot, but I think seeing some of the behaviors and how his reactions to certain things, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I would say that's one that has maybe changed, like, flipped for the not so positive. Lewis, I think, is one that I've grown into my enjoyment of Lewis.
That's a good point.
Because I've always respected him, but I always, I think, and it was all of Mercedes that wasn't involved in the first season, but I just kind of felt like a
disconnect.
Yeah, because I think in the same way that I think like Harry Styles is disconnected now, I get, but like for forever, they were always just doing all of the things, and so you felt like you knew him, and then he's kind of taken a step, like when he's not on tour, he's basically in hiding, and he kind of takes a step back to remain like, have a sense of like personal life. And I think it's just kind of taken me a while to understand that like Lewis is just protecting his peace and just showing up to do like what he needs to do, and he doesn't actually have to share all of his information. And totally fair, like super valid. I think it's just like, I love to know about these people.
Well, there's also, I mean, it sounds dumb, it's obvious, but there's such a difference in personality on the grid. There's certain drivers who kind of give you everything and show their personality and who they are, and then there's ones who don't as much, and that's just like life and human nature, and that's just people. But so if you're somebody who wants that, you get it from other people, and then you're like, why am I not getting it from these other people?
Well, you could also argue, like, and I've thought about this, that Max is the same way.
Yeah,
but I think because there's so much like public knowledge around how he was raised and his relationship with his dad, that like it's sort of not justified it, but it like
explained it.
Like it made sense to me, and I felt like I don't know, but I really, I cried when he won. Like, I love Lewis. I just don't know if he's ever going to be like my top. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I feel the same way about Max. Like,
totally.
I mean, I think Lewis is my Max. Yeah. Which is so cute.
So cute. And guess what, guys? We're still really good friends. You can do it.
Your prediction for both championships?
I think Max is going to win drivers, and I think McLaren might win constructors.
McLaren is like only 8 points back to Red Bull.
Something going on with the tennis out there?
My mom just wooed. That was weird.
I don't think you can hear it on the mic, though.
It's like she heard us say, you said, like, McLaren's going to win. Woo! Yeah. Anyway, okay. McLaren's like 8 points back from Red Bull, and I think Ferrari is like 30 something points back from Red Bull. So like it's actually a three-way fight for the constructors right now. I just don't see any way that Red Bull wins the constructors. I think it is just like downward trajectory all the way. And I actually think Red Bull would be lucky to get second. I think they actually could miss out. I think they could finish third and Ferrari could get second. Like I think the way things are going, I'm a little bit more reluctant to like bank on Ferrari continuously having success. But
why, do they have a bad track record or something?
Though, I got to give them credit.
They pulled it out when they needed
pulled
to.
it out. Yeah.
I genuinely couldn't believe that Charles won.
I was like, Ferrari making the right strategy call? What? Anyway, so I think McLaren's got constructors locked up, unless Red Bull somehow come back. Like, I think they talked about they're going to have upgrades at Coda. Unless those like magically improve the car and Max is able to like win a bunch of races, like I just don't see how it's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and I mean, just from what we've seen, like, unless there's a change in the lineup of any kind, like I just don't see it. And even then, I just don't know that there's enough to change anything.
I don't think so. So I think it's going to be. And then driver, I still think Max is going to win the driver's championship. It wouldn't shock me if Lando won. It wouldn't shock me.
He could, but like just you've said before, he'd have to like Max would have to DNF at least twice, right?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if what happened in Monza happens, like if Lando wins and Max is finishing P5, P6, wherever he ended up finishing, it's possible.
Yeah. Feels unlikely though.
It's hard. I
would love a battle though. Like I would love it to come down to the last two races.
See it. It's kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
I have more faith in Max than I have in Lando.
He's just more consistent.
Yeah. If you could work for any F1 team, which one and what job would you do?
It's a good question. I would most certainly be involved in like the hospitality and events and stuff like that. And I feel like, wild answer, but I think from a marketing perspective and just an experience perspective, Red Bull like always does stuff really big. So I feel like that would be a lot of fun. I also actually, to be fair, Williams does a lot of really cool activations and stuff as well. So that could be fun.
Less stakes.
Yeah. And I will say, like, in general, I actually don't believe I could, and like never say never, but everything is so, like, events is so stressful when you have a lot of time to prepare. And from my, limited experience and understanding, like, there's no lead time for events in F1. Like, everything is happening like the week before. And I just find it, like, I'm sure it's fun in a lot of ways, but I actually don't think I could handle doing F1 events. Now I could see doing events for like Red Bull, the company, and like,
or like a one-off event at something.
And I think that would be a lot of fun, but having to be like traveling around doing all the hospitality events and stuff like that, I think, hats off to the teams that do it, because they do a really great job and they just don't have a lot of time to prepare for a lot of it. And yeah, it's crazy.
Agreed. I mean, I would obviously do social media.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I'm picking just purely based off of which two drivers I'd want to work with most, I'd obviously pick VCarb.
Sure. Right now.
But I think in terms of like a team, I probably would say McLaren. Though I don't look great in orange. That's the only downside.
It's okay.
But that wouldn't really matter. Who cares? And I like the like vibes around that team, and I feel like it would be fun.
Yeah, the team's really
Lando,
really
Oscar,
nice. Yeah,
like would be fun to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if someone came to us and said like you get to go do social media content with like any of these teams for a race weekend, we would be all over it.
Yeah,
like,
I think I would probably prefer to work for one of the big F1 like race sponsors, because it would be more like an activation at a specific race, and so you still get the same interaction maybe with some of the drivers and with the fun stuff, but you're not having to just like go all the time.
Yeah. Aside from Silverstone, Las Vegas, which race do you really want to go to?
Australia.
We're manifesting that, guys.
We are manifesting that.
Hardcore. I feel like it's sort of our destiny.
Yeah. I also think like Singapore could be really cool. I mean, there's a lot that I feel like, even Montreal, like there's a lot that I want to experience. It's just hard
logistically,
and honestly, there's like I would love to go to Spa, but some of the logistically, it's just like even Silverstone, it's like really hard to get out there, and unless you choose to camp or are staying at the Hilton that's literally on the track, like it's a rough ride.
Maybe Abu Dhabi. If anyone wants to send us there. I mean, if any like travel company, team, race, whatever, want to send us to any race,
I'm in.
We will go. Just help us get there.
Which duh.
Who do you think is going to get the second Sauber seat? Do you think Valtteri is leaving?
This is hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
What? You think he's leaving?
Yeah. And I really don't want him to. But I sort of feel like, I feel like they're still potentially exploring options, because I feel like we would have heard by now if they weren't exploring other options.
Well, so we've gotten a lot of names thrown out, obviously Valtteri and Joe. Teo Porcher has been named as an option. Borletto, who's in F2, they've mentioned him as an option. I do wonder. I think I feel like I was going to say stake, but I guess they're Sauber, Audi, whatever, whoever they are. I think they're waiting for the Red Bull situation to be confirmed, because right now, we obviously don't know who's going to be in that other VCarb seat and like how that's going to shake out. And I feel like they're waiting to see like what does Red Bull choose and which driver is going to be available in a sense, because they could I don't know what else they're like waiting for. Like they could just decide. They know who's around. Like they have their drivers on their team. And I don't really know why they're waiting to figure it out. So I just feel like
it would make sense if they're waiting on the Red Bull. I'm not saying
they're going to like decide to choose one of those Red Bull affiliated people. I just think they maybe want to know all their options.
Yeah.
And so once that's like figured out, I could see them then making their decision. I do wonder with like all these other teams choosing to bring on rookies. You know, we have obviously Ollie coming in, Kimmy, Jack Doohan. Liam Lawson is obviously a potential. I wonder if that kind of gives like other teams permission. It's like almost like a domino effect. It's like, oh, well, Haas is bringing Ollie. So now I feel like as a team, I can take a risk on a rookie.
Yeah, like I don't have to pick from within
because
now.
Like other teams are taking risks. So I can take risks and I can maybe not worry so much about. I'm willing to be a little bit more experimental because other teams are being experimental.
You think Colton Herta is going to come in?
Man, he missed his chance.
Yeah.
But I wonder from Sauber's perspective, it's like, well, we already have Nico, who's like a veteran, and maybe we want to give this other seat to someone young and inexperienced who like could. And I could see them kind of considering 2025 as like a write-off. Like they don't even care. They're just trying to get to the regulation change and to when they become Audi. And so I can see them being like, this next season, we're just going to give someone experience. Like we're just going to let someone come in and just like get them in a position where they have like a season under their belt so that when we have this change, like they've had time in an F1 car. I think Valtteri's the favorite at this current point in time.
Oh, I agree.
I just wouldn't be surprised if somebody else sneaks in there. And unfortunately, it sucks for Valtteri because like he has been consistently beating Joe, obviously, but like the car is so terrible that he has nothing to show for it. And that's what's so hard is like when we evaluate all these drivers, it's like it's in our minds, we just think of like points as good,
right?
But you can't always do that because there's so many other factors involved.
Yeah. And you might have more points for a race because someone DNF'd and you got lucky, or you know, it doesn't necessarily mean skill.
Yeah, it's like you cannot compare. Like I saw people like you can't compare someone in a top car who's getting points every weekend, but like they're finishing P9 when they should be finishing P2 or whatever it is, to a driver who just doesn't have the car to even compete for points.
Right.
Because I was also thinking about this as well. This is a tangent kind of. But like, you know, the top 4 teams are so clearly the top 4 teams that like if everyone just finishes where they're supposed to finish, they're going to finish 1 through 8. Like if there's no DNFs or if there's no problems, and that leaves, and I'm going to take Stake out of the equation because they've never scored points this season and they're so clearly poor. But that leaves the other 5 teams, VCarb, Aston Martin, Haas, Alpine, Williams, fighting for 2 points positions. And so you have 10 drivers essentially fighting for 2 spots. It's like, you could have a great race, but you may finish P12 because like that's just the best you're going to do on that track. But again, we only view like points as success. I think that's part of the Daniel Yuki, like the way that people view that happening is like they see that Yuki has more points, which he does, but like the car has really not been very good the last few months. But Daniel's been outperforming Yuki, but he doesn't have the points to show for it. And I think that's kind of like sways people's opinions. So with Valtteri, it's like, I don't think people view him in a positive light necessarily. Oh, they're not like, oh, this guy deserves a seat because he's incapable of getting points.
Yeah, and it's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
So
that sucks.
That's long-winded, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I retweet.
Stock up or stock down on Kimmy? I think stock up.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Max crashed a shit ton his first couple seasons in F1. Like he was, because he was just finding the limit of the car, and like in a way you kind of want your driver to like push it to the limit because that shows they have speed. You don't want a driver to be safe. That means they're slow. So listen, stock up. I'm excited to see him race next season. I think there's a lot of pressure on him because he will be in a top team, and like Ollie, Jack, you know, they're not going to be in a top team, so there's like less pressure for them to succeed. And I do slightly. I think he's going to have high highs and he's going to have some low lows.
But so does George and so does Lewis.
Right. But like, I just think he's probably going to have some crashes where you're kind of like, oh, that wasn't very good. Rookie errors. But I think he's also going to have some races where you're like, damn, that was really impressive.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited for him.
He's going to do great.
And I'm just excited. Like, I remember when Oscar was first coming in and we were just like, not really sure about him because we don't know his personality yet, whatever. And I love Oscar now. So
of course.
Like, I'm just excited to get to know the other drivers
of
too.
the confirmed rookies we have right now, Kimmy, Jack, Ollie. Rank. Let's come back to this in a year.
Okay.
Where do you think you will stand? 1, 2, 3.
Jack, Ollie, Kimmy.
Jack, Ollie, Kimmy. Okay. Yeah, I feel like in a weird way, I feel like the closest connection to Jack.
Me too. Like he texted me. He didn't.
It's maybe the Australian thing. It's maybe because he loves Daniel so much.
I feel like he's also just like he's been around for a long.
Like social
he's the
content.
one. Like we've seen him at the pep rally. You know, I just like know him.
He's been Alpine's
more probably.
Reserve for a couple years. Like he's just kind of involved in.
He knows
more.
Patrick.
Yeah, and I think he also. Ollie is like so sweet. He just seems like so nice and so sweet, and like
which we don't like.
Not that I don't like.
I know.
Not that I don't like. It's just it's
not for us.
It's just not as like likely that I'm going to totally connect as quickly.
Yeah.
And Kimmy, I think
he was born in 2006. You know, there's only so much.
Ollie, I think, is born in like 2004. I don't know, but like they're all young.
I understand.
I think Jack too.
Let's not talk about that.
But yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to be mostly pro Jack.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Could change. Okay.
Aussie.
Let's get to the draft. So you, as I mentioned, I'm just going to, honestly, at the end of the season, I'm just going to go through all these and divvy up the points because I don't remember where people finished in quali race, whatever. So I'm just going to
it's fine.
Make sure to go through at the end. Some of these we've gotten and there hasn't been any points, so that's been fine. So we've got Baku. Okay. I need to just confirm who you've gotten twice. So I'm going to read out who you've had. George, Lewis, and just count if you hear someone twice, okay? George, Lewis, Max, Daniel, Fernando, Charles. You had Charles twice. Pierre, Oscar, Kevin, Nico, Lando, Nico.
Okay.
Yuki, Joe, Charles. So no Joe, no Nico, no Charles for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Go ahead and here. You got it. You got it.
Got it. Pierre.
Alrighty. And hopefully you haven't had him twice. I don't think you have, but
I don't think I have.
You had him. Okay. You had him once there. Yeah. And then I'm just looking who I've had twice. Nico, Valtteri, Joe. I think I've had Daniel twice. I've had Joe twice. I've had Valtteri. I think I've had George.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true.
Oh wait, no, yes, I have had George twice. Okay. Whatever. Again, this is too complicated for us. Kevin can't race, so I should probably draw someone else.
Sure.
Okay. If you don't have Ollie in this hat. Show. Woo. Alrighty. Sorry, Kevin. All right. Hey, they're best friends, Pierre and Charles.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun. You know, Baku is a very strong track for Pierre. He does very well here. So could mean good things for you.
Cool.
All right. So this is Azerbaijan. So it's an A word.
Astounding.
I'm going to say award winning.
Oh, wow.
Don't really know.
It's award winning.
Exactly. I don't really know.
The best song ever music
yes.
video? Okay.
I don't really know what that means exactly,
Doesn't
but
matter.
it's award winning.
Maybe Pierre will win an award for winning.
Sure. Or it's such a good race that it's award winning.
Yeah.
So that's that for this week's episode. As I mentioned, Hannah will not be here for Baku, so we have a guest
Miss you.
coming in for that to record the episode with me. But you will be back for Singapore.
Yes.
So we'll get to debrief that race together. And then I think we're in the clear.
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully.
Because then I think
It is,
my travels are over and there's a break.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's perfect.
Exactly. It's a month free of
next
F1
time
races.
Well, I can't really control any of my work travel, but
if you guys have any suggestions for like episodes that we could do during that month, I mean, I'm sure there'll be news and whatnot that we can talk about, but if there's anything that you want us to do that's fun, like we did with the beige flag episode or anything else like that, any ideas you have, let us know, message us, and maybe we can. I feel like we kind of have exhausted all like fun. We've done drivers' love languages. Maybe we could do another like who's most likely to.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anything else you want to add before prediction for Baku? Give me a prediction.
Prediction for Baku. I don't know. I'm trying to. I can't even picture the track. Like,
no, but who do you think's gonna win?
Oscar.
Okay. I said Oscar last week as well.
I thought Oscar was gonna win last week.
No. I know. I'm saying
but I was letting you know because I wasn't here. I thought Oscar was gonna win Monza.
Yeah. And yeah. So I think, and I also predicted. So I said, who did Caroline? I think Caroline said that she thought a McLaren would win in Baku, and I said I think Oscar's going to win in Baku, and I think someone outside of the top 4 teams is going to have like a really strong performance.
Yeah, Pierre.
For your sake, I hope it is Pierre Gasly. Also, we didn't even talk about George wearing his Taylor Swift Eras shirt.
Oh yeah, cute.
Like I'm wearing, which if you can see, it's dark.
Yeah.
But love it.
I know, so cute.
True fan right there.
Truly.
So anyway, okay guys, well thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy.
Glad I was able to be here.
Me too. And we'll see you next week. Enchante.